A city under siege, the Great Smog of 1952, London, December 1952. A blanket of smog descended upon the city, enveloping it in a dense, suffocating haze. It was like nothing Londoners had ever seen before. Visibility dropped dramatically, making it nearly impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. In some places, people could barely see their feet. The air was thick with acrid smoke, a toxic blend of pollutants that stung the eyes and burned the throat. It stung the eyes and burned the throat. This was not fog, but something far more sinister, a deadly cocktail of smoke and chemicals. This was the Great Smog. The smog brought life in the bustling city to a standstill, as if time itself had paused. Transportation ground to a halt. Buses and cars crawled along, their drivers blinded by the thick haze, struggling to navigate the once familiar streets. Trains were cancelled. People struggled to navigate the streets, their faces covered with handkerchiefs in a futile attempt to filter the air. But the smog was relentless. Theatres and cinemas closed their doors. Events were cancelled as even indoor gatherings became unbearable, the smog seeping into every corner of the city. The city, normally alive with activity, fell silent under the oppressive weight of the smog. The once bustling streets were now eerily empty. It was a chilling reminder of the power of nature, or rather the power of human actions to disrupt nature. The smog was a direct result of industrial pollution and coal burning. This eerie silence was broken only by the sound of coughing. The smog was more than just an inconvenience. It was a public health crisis. It was a deadly threat. For 5 long days, London choked. Thousands fell ill, and many lives were lost due to respiratory complications. The Great Smog became a defining moment in the city's history, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked pollution. It led to significant changes in environmental policies, shaping the future of air quality regulations. A lethal cocktail, the science behind the smog. Smog is a complex and dangerous mixture of pollutants that can have severe impacts on both the environment and human health. The Great Smog of 1952 in London was not a natural phenomenon, but a man-made disaster of unprecedented scale. It was a stark reminder of the consequences of industrialization without adequate environmental safeguards. At its heart was coal, the primary source of fuel for homes and factories in post-war London. Coal was abundant and cheap, making it the go-to energy source for heating and industrial processes. The burning of coal released massive amounts of smoke, soot, and sulfur dioxide into the air. These pollutants were emitted in such large quantities that they overwhelmed the natural ability of the atmosphere to disperse them. These pollutants alone would have been harmful enough, causing respiratory issues and other health problems. However, the situation was made even worse by a combination of weather conditions. A combination of meteorological factors exacerbated the situation. A period of cold weather had settled over London, creating the perfect conditions for a phenomenon known as a temperature inversion. A period of cold weather had settled over London, leading to a phenomenon known as a temperature inversion. This occurs when a layer of warm air sits above a layer of cold air, trapping the cold air near the ground. This meant that a layer of warm air trapped the cold, polluted air close to the ground. The pollutants had nowhere to go and accumulated to dangerous levels. The result was a toxic cocktail of pollutants that hung over the city, unable to disperse. The smog was so thick that visibility was reduced to just a few meters in some areas. The sulfur dioxide combined with water vapor formed sulfuric acid. This chemical reaction created a deadly acid fog that was highly corrosive and harmful to breathe. This deadly acid fog permeated the air, seeping into homes, businesses, and most importantly, into the lungs of Londoners. Thousands of people suffered from severe respiratory issues, and many lost their lives. The Great Smog was a stark illustration of the dangers of unchecked industrial emissions. It served as a wake-up call for the need to address air pollution and its sources. It highlighted the urgent need for cleaner sources of energy and stricter regulations to protect the environment and public health. Today, we've made significant strides in reducing air pollution through the adoption of renewable energy sources and the implementation of environmental regulations. However, the lessons of the Great Smog remain relevant as we continue to tackle the challenges of air quality and climate change. A city gasping for air, the devastating impacts. The immediate impact of the Great Smog was terrifying. Visibility was reduced to mere feet. People lost their way in familiar streets, disoriented and struggling to breathe. The air was so thick with pollutants that it was difficult to see even across the street. Hospitals overflowed with patients suffering from respiratory problems. The elderly and those with pre-existing lung conditions were hit particularly hard. The smog aggravated their conditions, leading to a sharp rise in hospital admissions and, tragically, deaths. In the aftermath of the smog, the true scale of the disaster became horrifyingly clear. Official estimates put the death toll at 4,000, with many more suffering long-term health problems. The smog had claimed lives indiscriminately, from the very young to the very old. The Great Smog left an indelible mark on London. It served as a harsh wake-up call, forcing the government and the public to confront the deadly consequences of air pollution. It was a tragedy that would pave the way for much-needed change. Section 4. A turning point, the Clean Air Act of 1956. The Great Smog of 1952 shocked the world. For 5 days, a thick, yellowish fog enveloped the city, reducing visibility to mere feet and causing widespread panic. The images of London shrouded in a deadly haze, where even the iconic landmarks were barely visible, painted a grim picture of urban life. The stories of lives lost and families devastated, with over 4,000 deaths attributed to the smog, spurred a collective demand for action. The public's outcry was loud and clear. This public outcry, coupled with the tireless efforts of individuals like Sir Gerald David, who was deeply moved by the tragedy, led to significant political pressure. This pressure culminated in a turning point in environmental legislation. The Clean Air Act of 1956. It was a monumental step forward. Sir Gerald David, a visionary civil servant, was instrumental in this change. His dedication to public health and the environment was unwavering. He played a pivotal role in shaping the act, working tirelessly behind the scenes to gather support and draft the necessary legislation. He recognized the urgent need to address the root causes of the smog. His meticulous research and data collection were crucial in understanding the problem. His meticulous research and tireless advocacy highlighted the link between industrial emissions, particularly from factories and power plants, domestic coal burning, and the deadly smog. He demonstrated how these sources combined to create a lethal environment. The Clean Air Act introduced a series of groundbreaking measures aimed at reducing air pollution. It was a comprehensive approach to a complex problem. It established smoke control areas, which were zones where the burning of coal was strictly regulated, banning the burning of coal in designated areas. This was a significant move, as coal was a primary source of heating for many households. The Act also incentivized the use of cleaner fuels, such as gas and electricity, which were less harmful to the environment, and promoted the development of new technologies to reduce industrial emissions. Factories were encouraged to adopt cleaner, more efficient machinery. The 1956 Act was a landmark piece of legislation, setting a new standard for environmental protection, not just for the UK, but for the world. It demonstrated that a nation could take decisive action to protect its citizens and environment. It set a precedent for environmental regulation, inspiring other countries to follow suit and implement their own clean air policies. demonstrating that economic progress need not come at the cost of public health and the environment. The Act's legacy continues to influence environmental policy to this day. Section 5. Breathing freely again, London's road to recovery. The Clean Air Act of 1956 marked the beginning of a new era for London. It was a long and challenging journey, requiring significant changes in infrastructure, industry, and individual behavior. But the results were undeniable. The implementation of smoke control areas had a dramatic impact on air quality. The ban on coal burning in these zones led to a significant reduction in smoke and sulfur dioxide levels. The air became cleaner, visibility improved, and the city's buildings, once blackened by soot, gradually regained their original colors. The shift towards cleaner fuels and technologies also played a crucial role. Homes and industries transitioned from coal to gas, electricity, and other less polluting alternatives. This transition, while gradual, resulted in a steady decline in harmful emissions. London's experience demonstrated that even in the face of a severe environmental crisis, recovery is possible. The Clean Air Act, with its combination of regulation, innovation, and public awareness, proved that cleaner air and a healthier future were within reach.